There are so many interesting ways to use Kiro. Today, I'm going to show you how you can use spec mode, how you can use steering files, how you can use MCP servers to build a full stack application. So you can kind of see how I would do it. And at the end, you will have this food tracker application. You can see it here. It's all built with TanStack Start. I'm using Drizzle as our ORM. I'm using, of course, Tailwind. And then if we click the Start Food Tracking button, you can see here I have a bunch of entries. These are already in my Postgres database. I'm using Drizzle ORM. I'm using Docker as well. And then I have this form where I have field validation and a bunch of other nice goodies there. So make sure you watch all the way to the end. You can learn about how you can create this for yourself and how you can use Kiro to build full stack applications. All right, I have Kiro open here. And let's go ahead and jump into a new TanStack Start application. So I've been learning this. It's a really cool framework. If you haven't heard of it, you can go to tanstack.com/start and learn all about it. Here's the documentation. They have kind of a novel way of handling server functions and client-side routing and server-side routing. You can find all about it here and how they deal with environmental functions and middleware. But I thought it would be fun to create a full stack application, kind of a food tracking app. So let's see how we can do that. So I'm going to open up the terminal and I'm going to just follow the instructions directly from the Getting Started guide, the quick start guide here. I'm using pnpm, so I'm just going to copy this, go back to my terminal and paste it. Now, by the way, I am using Windows Subsystem for Linux. This will work the same on your Mac. If you like to use WSL2 with your application with Kiro, I found this really neat extension. It's called Open Remote WSL. I just followed the instructions. It does require you to go into your configure runtime and make an update where you add in this enable proposed API, but it seems to work well so far. It does take a few extra seconds for everything to load up, but I'm pretty happy with it, so try it out. So I'm going to call this application our food starter. And then I'm going to use Tailwind CSS, of course. I'm going to use Biome. And I want to use Drizzle as our ORM. This is going to help us manage our database and be able to do migrations. And it's a really nice library. So I'm going to add it in here. I'm not going to worry about TanStack Chat. I'm going to choose PostgreSQL. And now it's going to initialize the Git repository and set up the application for the first time. All right, so it looks like it's done. So I can change directory to food starter. And here it is. Now, I can go into my Explorer here, but I won't be in the right folder. So I'm just going to run kiro.-r, which will recursively basically open this up in the same window, which is exactly what I want. So this will just take a second for Kiro to load again. And let me show you a little bit of the configuration I have. First, in my MCP servers, I have this a handful of MCP servers I set up, and this is really going to help us configure and be able to connect to different services and documentation so that way we can better use Kiro. So I'm using Chrome DevTools. This is a really neat feature that actually opens up a browser and you can have your LLM or your agent kind of look at that and be able to make suggestions or updates. I'm using Amazon Bedrock Agent Core. It's a really nice MCP server. We're not going to do anything with AWS services today, but I have that in there. And then I have Context 7, which has a lot of different documentation sites in here. So I can easily use Kiro to look up different documents. Now, in here, I have the app. Now, I always like to just make sure it works. So I'm going to do a pnpm dev. It's on port 3000. I'm going to open it up in a browser here. So we'll go localhost 3000. Hey, so okay, it's working. That's good news that we have that. I'll close this. One thing I like to do is I'll look at the status and see all these files. Let me just go ahead and commit them. I'm going to go in and add and then just commit them all, called first commit. And that way, as we go along, if we need to, I can go back in and check what files are updated or changed, which is I find really helpful. Okay, so we know we have it up and running, but what do we want to do with this application? So let's just start by going in to the README file. So I'm going to open up, and just for now, I'm going to kind of close the chat window up to give us a little bit more space. And I'm going to look up the README. Now this is the default README that comes with any TanStack Start application. Not really useful for us, so we're going to make some updates. I'm just going to delete all this, and I'm going to create my own. And this is going to be good because I'm going to use this later with Kiro, and it's going to understand better what the application is that I'm trying to create. So I'm going to call this a food tracking app. All right, so a premise of what it is, I'm just going to, this is a markdown file. We have installation, but we're using PM. So I'm just going to make sure that it knows this. We will be using PM. And then I kind of want to just outline a few of the features that this thing will have. So I'm just going to create a new features. And so we want to add food, view food, edit food, delete food, kind of everything you would want to see. Maybe also list food. I think we could probably add like search food and all these others, but I think that makes sense. All right, so we have a basic README here. I want to go ahead and now create some steering docs. So these documents will look at this README, and it's also going to look at everything I've set up here and kind of create some of the same defaults. So I'm going to hit this generate steering docs, and it's going to start creating all these documents describing this application. And then as I'm vibe coding back and forth, it'll be added into the context. So while it's doing that, there's actually a couple of more files I want to copy over. So in the previous folder, I actually cheated a little bit. I created 2 markdown files that describe how to use Docker and how to use TanStack Start. So we're going to use those 2 documents to help make sure that Kiro better understands how to use these. Now we have context 7. So we'll also make sure that it uses context 7 when it needs to, and context 7 will look up the documentation for TanStack, but I just want to kind of give it a little bit of a head start. Now, if you want to do this yourself, I'll have a link in the description to this application. You can grab these yourself, or it's pretty easy to create. You can just have context 7 go out and have it create a best practices guide. I kind of like doing this so it doesn't have to go out and check the documentation. So there's 2 of them. I'm just going to copy them both over here. So now I have these 2 Docker Postgres best practices and a TanStack Start best practices. And I have a database schema too. I don't really need that. I'll let it create the database. I'm just going to delete that one. All right, but I have the 2. And if I come back over here, here's what they look like. This just kind of gives you a basic idea of kind of a directory layout that I like to see, key principles, things like that for TanStack. And then I have the same thing for Docker, just like how to set up like a basic Docker app for us. This is great. All right, so created these 3 files. It has the product, kind of the core features, the structure so far, and the tech, which is great. So now these will be added into the context whenever we do vibe coding or spec. But I want to add in those 2 files that we just created. So I'm going to create a new steering document. I'm going to call it TanStack, Drizzle, and Docker best practices. And so this file now is where we'll put in some best practices of what we want to do. So I'll put in some information here, like always use context 7 to check documentation for Drizzle, TanStack, Docker if needed, and then use these best practice files for the project. And so this is where I can do it. Now to add in files into an already existing steering file like this, I just hit the hashtag and then the 2 brackets, and then I can file, and then I can choose the file. So I'm going to choose the Docker file, and then I'm going to choose file again, and this time I can use the TanStack starter best practices. So now I have these 2 files in here, and it's going to be referenced anytime this runs. I always like to click this refine button too. And what this does, it's going to kind of take this document, make it look a little bit nicer. I can also make some edits in it as I need. So it looks like I'm good to go. I have my agent steering files. I have my MCP servers. It's refining what I need here. I think the next thing we need to do is to try to get a schema ready. So, okay, so it looked like it added in some server functions, database integration, so lots of great information in here. I'm not going to go through it, but this is good. Now, coming back over here, now if we come back here, and there's a database folder, and we have a schema, and this is like our classic example to do. This is just boilerplate, comes out of using TanStack when we created it. We are not going to be using that schema, but it's nice that it's there. We also have this data, which I'm going to go ahead and delete, because we don't need this. We have routes. I have this demo. It came with this. I'm just going to delete this as well. Okay, I think this is fine the way it is. I have this header. So let's vibe code some things here to start with. I'm gonna just go ahead and start a new session. You can always add new sessions, by the way, and delete sessions if you want to. I would recommend that because sessions, if they get too long in Kiro, it'll ask you to create another session. It'll consolidate the previous ones. I always just like to create a few of them at the same time. So for vibe coding, we're gonna ask it to create a new schema for the app. So add a new Drizzle schema for this app. And it should read all those documents we just created to understand what it needs. So now it's going to create a new schema TS file. I kind of like clicking this follow button too, by the way. Then I can actually like see what it's doing in real time as it's adding and deleting things into it. Okay, so here it is. It's creating a new food items table, which I would expect with a name, quantity, protein, all this stuff. A to-dos table's deleted. And of course, it's smart enough to know all the libraries you need to install for this. It's also checking the routes and checking a few other things. Oh, it looks like it has insert food item schema. It's really nice too. It's using Zod. So if we come back here, it's smart enough to add Drizzle Zod and Zod. So it's already adding the packages that we need, which is great. And it will start generating right away. So let's click the generate button. By the way, it always asks you before it does any changes on the command line. You can always click the button to always accept it if you like, but in this case, I'll just leave it like that. And great, so in the Drizzle folder, it created this new migration. Now we have the source, we have DB, we have this new schema for this PG table. Now it's trying to do the migrate right now. Yeah, let's click this button to let it migrate. Now it's obviously failing at this point because we haven't set up the Docker container. We can go ahead and do that here in a second. So we have everything. This looks fine to me. I'm not going to change anything, but it looks good. So the next thing we need to do is have it create a Docker file so we can kind of test locally, compose up, compose down it. So I'm going to put in, can you create a simple Docker Postgres file for Drizzle? All right, so it should create a new simpler Postgres file for Drizzle for this application, and it's going to use a composer YAML file, and it's going to put it all together. And we might have to go back and forth a little bit to see what it creates, but yeah, let's see how this goes. All right, so it looks like it created this Postgres file, and let's take a look at it. All right, so very simple username and password called mydb, and we should be able to get it up and running. So let's try pnpm docker up, and now it's pulling the data. By the way, it puts this version. Apparently you don't need this version, but that's fine. Oh, so it's saying that failed to set up container work, driver failed, program external connect to endpoint food regress. Okay, so this might be because I have another Docker container running. Yes, I have another older Docker container running. Let me go ahead and stop that real quick. So I'm going to go into another app here. All right, so I went ahead and stopped the container. Let me try it again. Okay, this time it started. That's good news. Now let's see if we can run the migration script. So to give you an idea what it's doing before jumping here, this is part of the TanStack starter kit that we're using when we created the app, but since we chose Drizzle, it added all these nice features here. So you can generate, which generates the migration files, and then you can use migrate to actually insert them into the database. And so you can even take a look. Here's what it's going to insert in this food items. So we probably need to check a few things real quick. So the env local file, this is username, password, localhost, but we know from our Docker compose file that it should be username, password. So username, password, yep, this all looks good here. And they also gave me an example of the exact same thing. Let's copy the env local to .env. So now it should work. Let's run the migration again. So I'm going to run pnpm db migrate. Okay, great. Says it is applied successfully. That's good news. So it went ahead and inserted everything in. Now, did it create any seed information for this? I don't think it did. Well, let's see what's in the database right now. A nice thing with Drizzle too, we can go back to the package JSON, is we have this Drizzle Kit Studio. So I can run pnpm db studio, and that's gonna run it on this local Drizzle Studio and 4983. So if I open this up, and let's just open this up in here. So Drizzle Studio. So this is actually connecting to this food items database I just created, which I don't see anything in. So it definitely doesn't have anything in there. At least it's there, so that's good news. Let's ask it to add some seed data. Please add some seed data to the Drizzle food table. So that way we can at least have some information in there when we start. And so now it'll add that. And usually too, we can even add in something in the package JSON so we can run the command using pnpm just a little bit easier. Okay, so it created the seed file, and look at this. So now it's adding this organic bananas, Greek yogurt. That looks good. All the way at the end, oh, this one just overloaded match. Oh, looks like it fixed it. Good. I think it still has a problem down here with seed data, but let's see if it runs. So it did add in a new pnpm db seed, so let's try that. pnpm db seed, and now, cool. So it said it added it, and then let's add this, let's run the studio again, and let's refresh this. All right, cool. So we can see it here. It's in the studio, which means it's in the database, the Postgres database that we have set up. Nice. All right, so at this point, we don't have anything changed. We just set up Drizzle, we have it connected, but we really want to be able to go in and see the data and add the data. So this is where we can do a couple of things. I can add another session here and start the spec mode, but there's actually a quicker way. If you do kiro create new spec, you can just do it this way anywhere you are in the app. It makes it a little tiny bit quicker. So I'm going to give it a prompt here. And the prompt I'm going to say is create a nice route that allows users to add food, make it look nice with a gradient, because you know gradients make everything look nice. Hopefully not purple gradient, but hopefully something nice. It should save food entries and display all entries. So this is kind of a nice feature. Spec mode is a way, if you have some bigger features you want to implement, you have a lot of edge cases, things you want to think about, this is a great option to use. So now it's going to kind of go in the spec mode and walk us through this. I really like this too, because now I'm getting to see how Kiro thinks. And yeah, that makes me happy. So right now it's creating this requirements document, and this requirements document is going to have some information about what it thinks we should do. So let's just double check this before we move on. So this feature provides a comprehensive food track interface that allows users to add new food entries via all existing user-friendly. It's going to use CRUD operations. I like it gives it a glossary of what everything is. As a user, I want to add new food entries, acceptance criteria. As a user, I want to add new food entries so that I can track my food consumption. So you can add categories, submits invalid food. This is really nice. It's thinking about like errors, things like that. As a user, I want to view all my food entries. It's going to display the food entries. When new food entries exist, the food tracker shall display a message indicating no entries. I kind of like that a little bit. I definitely want to see that. As a user, I want a food tracker to have an attractive design. This is important to me. It should know that we're using Tailwind CSS because it's literally in the README file. So I don't think I need to put that in the acceptance criteria. In requirements 4, as a user, I want the food tracker to handle errors gracefully. Yeah, so kind of giving some nice error messages. This is one that maybe just for an MVP we don't need, but I'm going to leave it. I'm going to ask it to add one more thing. Add a requirement to be able to delete food items. Yeah, I think it said that it could add food items, but not delete. So it went ahead and updated that. So where is it? There it is, requirement 4. So here it is, as you want to delete food entries. So now we have 5. Okay, so this looks good. I'm gonna move on to the design phase. And so now it should take this requirements document and put it all together into a comprehensive design. And this just usually takes a few minutes when you do this process. I usually give myself a good like 5-10 minutes if I want to do this process the right way, just to go through the requirements, design, task list before it actually starts implementing it. Excellent. Okay, so I created a design document. So let's just quickly look through this. It's going to add a new route for food tracker. That sounds like what I want. It's going to source route food tracker TSX. It's going to use existing layout. It's going to use the client server data flow, server database. This is what's really nice about these meta frameworks like Next or Nuxt or TanStack Start, is that you basically write server code in the same files you write your client code. Some people like that, some people don't. I think it's really nice. So it sees it's using Drizzle ORM. It's going to add a food package track component, add form component, food entries list component, food entry card component, and then it's giving me some TypeScript types that it's going to create. I think this create server FN, I think it's supposed to be input validator, not validator. So let me check. I just remember saying that last time I was playing with this. Is it validator on create server function or input validator? So it's going to check that. Hopefully it'll check the documentation. Yeah. So it's using the MCP server in context 7 to just really double check to see if this is right. So that way it can get it correct. Yeah, so it uses input validator method, not validator. So it should update this correctly. Get food entries, delete food entries, data model, quantity categories. Now these data food models, we'll have to see what kind of code it outputs, but I think this matches roughly to the design, the actual schema. So we have lots of different category units, calories, carbs, but the design doesn't mention all those. Like the carbs, I could ask it to make sure it has all of them in there. Okay, let's see. It did update the design, so it's using input validator. That looks right. Let me just say, can you make sure the form data matches the schema so we are capturing all the fields that make sense? I don't know if we want every single field, but it probably should have more than just these in the design. So let's see if it can add that in there for the user input, because I really want the user to be able to like put in a lot of information, like probably not created or updated at obviously, but more than just these four. So let's see if it makes that update for us. Okay, so it looks like it made it. I can even see what it did. Yeah, so it added some more of these fields that make more sense, I think. So that looks good. Yeah, so now we have in the design some more information. Now we have a lot more fields that make more sense, and I think that is good. And some of them are optional. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the implementation phase. So now it should take the design and the requirements that we've been going back and forth on and create a task list. Okay, looks like it created the task list. One nice thing too is with the latest version of Kiro, it adds in some extra tests, and you can say, hey, make them all optional. So I'm going to keep optional tasks faster for MVP. I think I like that. And let's see what it did. So create the food tracker route with basic structure, implement server functions for food operations, create a server function fetching food entries, build the add food form component, which is fine. Implement food entries display, integrate component, add data loading. And okay, so I think number 5, I'm just going to say remove task 5. I don't think, just for this demo today, I don't think we need to add in a bunch of data loading stuff where the route changes. It also adds a little bit of complexity to it. So it's going to remove it. I could also just delete it, but sometimes I like to have Kiro go in and delete things in the task list so it kind of understands where I'm coming from and adds it to that context that I don't want to do that. So it looks like it's editing it right now. Okay, so it edited it out. So now I no longer have task 5. It's all commented out. All right, so I think there's 4 different tasks and they have some subtasks. Let's start with creating the food tracker route and then implementing, let's do 1 and 2 first. So I could do this a couple ways. I can click the start task spec button, but I'd like to just tell it what it wants here. So I'm gonna say start task 1 and at task 2. And now it will start running these tasks. You can see here, the start task button will start flashing. Of course, it's using the everything in my context too to make sure that this is correct. Okay, so task in progress. Now, while it's doing this, this might take a minute. We can kind of play around and do other things. So I'm gonna go to pnpm dev and start it. And if we come back here, here's what it looks like. So it has an error right now because probably it's editing some things. So let's see what it's doing here. It's kind of risky to start doing things while it's working, but it looks like, oh, because it's doing the food tracker import and it's not there yet for food tracker. So it looks like it's already in the process of creating this route. So let's give it a second to fix itself while it's creating this new route structure. Otherwise, I don't think we're going to be able to use it. It's also pretty smart too. It'll try to see any errors and try to fix them. It'll even run a dev server and check. But let's give it a second. It'll even notice like there's duplicate content. Let me fix this by removing duplicate code. Because I think the food tracker, okay, so I don't see any errors right now. Let's see, let me see if it works now. Okay, I don't see any errors. Hey, okay, so we're back here. So while this is running, I'm going to create a new window here and ask it, can you update the main index file and add a link to the food route? Also make it nice and professional. Add a nice hero image. All right, so now it's going to kind of do two things at once. It's still working on my spec, which is right here, but now I can also have it go in and work on this other session where it's updating the front page. We can see here it's working, probably again, because it changed some things in the food tracker. And so we can kind of play around it. So right now, this is updating the food tracker app. It's reading the food tracker route, and it should be updating this root index file is what I want it to change. So it's updating the main index file. And while it's doing that, I'll just restart the server. Okay, all right, it's already making changes. I see here it's food tracker, smart food management. And if I click this, it's probably not there, but this would go to that new route that was just created. Well, okay, here it is. Yeah, so it's already doing, the route is already there. Has some nice little icons, food tracking, also has some hover effects, and it has that nice gradient in a few places. This is really nice to do. It didn't take much time. Okay, so the current design looks great with icon-based heroes messages. Let's take a look. Index, TSX, yeah, so it's using this Lucid React, and it's using all these Tailwind. So it looks pretty good for what it's doing. Let's take a look at the spec. Okay, spec, okay, it completed both 1 and 2. So we're kind of multitasking here. All right, so it completed 1 and 2, and my other one is running. So I'm gonna just say, nope, don't wanna build it. I'm assuming it's fine. Okay, so it's done here. Like I said, it looks pretty good. One thing I probably want to change is this navigation. It doesn't look updated. It still has like the basic navigation. So we'll fix that. But let's go back to our spec. Let's have it do the last one. So can you implement task 3 and 4 and stop. All right, so now it's going to start with building the add food form component and the implement food entries display. And while it's doing that, I'm gonna go back to my other tab here and ask, can you fix the navigation and have it be like the rest of the app? Is there anything else we wanna change here? Oh, and the header. Let's change the navigation first, and then we'll kind of take a look at the header, because it still says TanStack right here. I don't want it to say that. Okay, so now it's looking at the header, the index. It's now the task. It's starting with the implementing the tasks. This is actually pretty quick. By the way, I'm using auto right here. You can choose Sonnet 4.5 or 4. I think auto at this point is best because it just picks what's more optimal usage. Plus it's the least amount of credits, and anything I can do to reduce the amount of credits is good. There's also this autopilot mode. If you've been noticing, it's been doing a lot of edits. You can always go back and look at the diffs on each one of the edits it does and also undo the changes. If you want to undo everything it just did, you can click turn off autopilot, and then it'll ask you at the end if you want to make a bunch of changes. So you can see I already had 35 changes. I probably should, in my next time when things are done, I should commit everything and then make changes one by one. That way I can see what it changed before. You see there's lots of changes here, but that's okay. So here's the session. All right, still going in, making changes. This is really nice too. This is a new feature that came out into the latest version of Kiro. It does this diagnostics check on any of the files. That way, if you do have weird errors in them, it'll pick it up and fix it. That way, if you have like duplicate things at the bottom or top, sometimes LLMs will accidentally duplicate things, it'll fix that. So I think it did it with header. I think there was a problem with header and it just fixed it for me, which is nice. Yeah, so now it's good. And it's also looking at the root. This file in TanStack Start is something you can use to help organize your app, like how it's your layout, your metadata, and it kind of surrounds everything else, and it surrounds your children. So let's take a look what it looks like now. All right, so this looks good. You see this food tracker. You can still start food tracking, has all the nice icons, little gradient, and now the navigation. All right, so as a food tracker here, start server function. I think I still need to have it delete some of these in the navigation, at least fix the header. Let's tell it to fix that. I could do this manually easily, obviously. I'm sure there's a navigation. I could just search for navigation. And then when I get the navigation, looks like right here in the header. I could just like delete this manually. Let's see if it can do it though. So I'm in this new session. Let's reference the file. Header, update the navigation, remove unneeded links. All right, so let's see how far it's here. The spec mode, it's still working. We can go back into the tasks to see what it's doing here. Okay, so it looks like it's still working on all these. It's working on 3 still, fixing the food tracker. All right, so now it's removing this. One other way you could do this if you really wanted to be crazy, you can open up the terminal and then open up like Amazon QCLI and have like 3 agents working at the same time, or you could try to even open another new session. One really nice thing I didn't get into in this video is there is something called agent hooks. So I could add an agent hook so every time I save a component or save certain files, it does something. Like if I want the README to be updated every time I save a file, I could add that in there, or maybe update the steering documents. So that's one thing you can think of. All right, so it said it fixed the navigation. Let's take a look. All right, that looks better. And oh, looks like, ooh, look at this. This looks good. I like this. And you could probably, I wonder as well if it's responsive. I'm assuming it is. If we click here, we can now change and take a look at what it's looking like. So it looks like it's automatically resizing and reshaping, which is good. So in super small, yeah, this looks good. I like this. Okay, I just kind of want to look at it. That looks good. All right, so it did task 3. Okay, so it's done with all the tasks as we were kind of playing around. And okay, everything's done from everything I was trying to have it do. So let's see if it works. Let's give it a test. So I'm gonna refresh, start tracking food. You could see here, it lists all the food. I'll make this a little bigger. And I should be able to add new ones. So I'm gonna add in, let's say an apple. Okay, I think I noticed one issue is the TanStack. I have it coming up, this TanStack tools. So let me see here if I can turn off the TanStack tools. Let me see if there's a way to do that. So I'm gonna go into the root. Maybe it's in the Vite config. How can I turn off the TanStack tooling that appears? Okay, so it looks like it found this, TanStack dev tools. I don't really want it running. It keeps popping up for me. All right, so let's see if that fixed it. Okay, so I'm gonna come back here to the food tracker. I'm gonna add in an apple. This is an apple. I'm gonna call it fruits, piece 1. Let's say it's 100 calories, 20, 34, 10, and all right, there it goes. I accidentally clicked everything. Let's delete it. Are you sure you want to delete? Delete. Cool. So now I can delete it. Delete. Awesome. So it looks like it's working. Let's try this one more time. Let's try test 1, 2, 3. Test fruits optional 200, 100, 112. Let's try this. Put it on the 23rd. Add food entry. There's test. And let's open up Drizzle Studio to see what it looks like in there. I can just open another tab here. And I think it's PMPMDB Studio. I think that's what it was. All right. Come back to Drizzle Studio. I'll refresh. All right, here's my test. All right, so I see it in the database. It seems to be all working great. I think the last thing I want to do is have it go in and update the README file. So if I go to the README, it's really simple. So can you update the README with all the changes we did and summarize this application? Okay, so now it should look at everything I've done here and summarize it. So I think this is a really neat way to learn a new framework and to play around with it. I think if I had to do this manually, this would have taken like hours, and now I've just been able to do it really quickly. There is a couple of things. I think these are, yeah, so a form label. This is like biome questions. Like this isn't anything that is going to stop it from working, but no label without control. So I can go back and fix some of these where I see these red texts. Probably not that big of a deal for me. There's also quite a few other things I'm sure I could do here. I could spend a bunch of time trying to figure out how to have an LLM connect to this, but this video is not going to have any AI in it, don't worry. But that would be kind of fun. Let's see here, README. All right, so now I have this really nice README tracker of this whole app. If anybody wants to clone this and try it out themselves, they can. It has all the information. Yeah, and I think, you know, I'm kind of happy with this. It looks pretty good. I probably added like a few definitely tweaks to this, but this looks good. And it even has a link back to the official documentation where I can get back with TanStack Start. All right, so if you guys like this video, leave a comment below. Love to hear your feedback. I can do more of these more in-depth ways of using Kiro and how I go back and forth with it. Let me know. Thanks.